Good evening, steelworkers, sisters, brothers, and friends. I'm Miles Sullivan, United Steelworkers District 6 Director representing USW members in Ontario and Atlantic Canada. Welcome to our newest edition of News at 6 Live. Joining me this evening is Kevon Stewart, Assistant to the Director here at District 6. Good evening, Kevon. We'll hear a bit from Kevon a little bit later on. I want to let you know that I'm speaking to you today from the traditional territory of many nations, land that has been inhabited by Indigenous peoples from the very beginning. In particular, we acknowledge that we are on the territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. This land is covered by Treaty 13, signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit, and the Williams Treaties, signed with multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands. This territory is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We are grateful to be able to live and work on this land. Let me start off by inviting you, District 6 Steelworkers, to our district conference in St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador. This fantastic event will be held from July 8th to the 12th at the Delta Hotel in St. John's. The theme for our conference is We're Ready. What does We're Ready mean? It's an overarching theme that reflects the tremendous work our members have been doing and will continue to do going into the future. We're Ready means steelworkers are ready to bargain strong contracts. It means we're ready to organize new members to join our union. We're ready to educate our members, to empower and mobilize our activists, and to build strong local unions. We're Ready means we are ready to take action against bad employers, to fight for our members' rights, and to defend our health and safety at work. And it means we're ready to support our communities in the many incredible ways that steelworkers always do. You know, at the district office, we're working hard to ensure that this will be a great and empowering conference for our activists. Delegates will have the chance to hear from inspiring special guests and speakers and benefit from unique educational experiences. Registration opened in February, and I'm told that spots are starting to fill up. So for those locals that have not done so yet, I strongly encourage you to get your registrations in as soon as possible. The registration link is listed on the screen. Early bird pricing is available until May 6th, so please take advantage of that as soon as you can. I can promise you this will be a rewarding and memorable experience for our activists. We're looking forward to welcoming you to beautiful St. John's in July. While I'm on the topic of invitations, there are a few other events to invite District 6 members to this year. At the end of May, the District 6 Spring School will be held at the Living Waters Resort in Collingwood, Ontario. We're offering 3 educational courses at this year's school: Officers in Action, Bargaining to Win, as well as Financial Officers Training. These are the most requested education courses in our district, and that's because they provide our local union officers, activists, and bargaining committees with crucial knowledge, confidence, and skills to be successful. The link to register for the District 6 Spring School is up on the screen. Local union members who are interested in attending have until Friday, May the 3rd, to register. Steelworkers who have benefited from our union's education program know that it is second to none. It's unmatched. So I hope that we'll see many new activists participate in this year's spring school. Also coming soon is a really great opportunity for our human rights activists in District 6. The USW International Civil and Human Rights Conference will be held from June 9th to the 12th in Detroit, Michigan. Steelworkers have always been leaders in defending human rights and for fighting for equality and justice for all. And we have accomplished so much. But we also know that this fight is never over. As we've witnessed too often in recent years, there are still many groups and individuals who spread hate and misinformation and who want to turn back the clock on basic human rights, on equality and workers' rights. The theme of this year's International Civil and Human Rights Conference is, I've got the movement in me. Anyone who has attended this conference in the past will tell you that it is an experience like no other, in the way it inspires, educates, and empowers our members. So I'm urging our locals, please send delegates to this amazing conference. There is a link on your screens where you can find all the information you need. I hope to see many of you in Detroit this June. Lastly, I'd like to invite you to the Steelworkers National Justice Conference, which is going to be held in Gatineau, Quebec from October 2nd to the 4th. The Justice Conference also is a unique and remarkable event. It's a combined conference on human rights as well as health, safety, and environmental issues. This conference builds on the steelworkers' record of leadership and achievement on these issues in Canada, not only for our members, but for all working people. Registration for the Justice Conference is now open, and the link is displayed on your screens. As you can see, this is a busy year for conferences and events, and that means there is a lot of opportunity for our activists as well as for our members who want to become activists to learn, to build solidarity with other members, and to get involved in our union. I want to take some time to speak about our union's crucial work on health and safety. On March 31st, we marked the 20th anniversary of the passing of Bill C-45, better known as the Westray Law. The Westray Law was named in memory of 26 coal miners who were killed in the Westray mine explosion in Nova Scotia in 1992. This law was enacted in Parliament in 2004, following a decade-long political lobbying campaign led by the steelworkers, joined by other unions, as well as former Westray miners and family members of the workers killed in the mine. A few weeks ago, I was really honored to attend a ceremony to mark the Westray Law's 20th anniversary, which was held at the Memorial Park for the miners in New Glasgow, Nova Scotia. I attended this ceremony with our National Director, Marty Warren, and Sylvia Boyce, the leader of our union's Health, Safety, and Environmental Department. We joined former Westray miners and relatives of the miners who were killed in 1992, as well as leaders of the Canadian Labour Congress, the Nova Scotia Federation of Labour, and other unions in Atlantic Canada. We were there to honor the memory of the Westray miners, as well as to recognize that the Westray Law was a very historic achievement that promised greater corporate accountability for workplace safety and greater protection for workers. But we also held this ceremony to denounce the deplorable reality that this historic achievement has become a historic failure. You know, on paper, the Westray Law strengthened the Criminal Code of Canada to make it easier to impose criminal liability on corporations for workplace injuries and fatalities. But what has actually happened since the law came into effect in 2004? In those 20 years, workplace deaths have claimed the lives of 20,000 Canadian workers and tens of thousands of other workers who have been seriously injured or made ill on the job. Even though the overwhelmingly majority of these fatalities and injuries were preventable, the Restream law has rarely been used to prosecute employers. Instead, we have witnessed 2 decades of failure to hold employers criminally accountable. Governments have repeatedly betrayed the promise made to workers and grieving families when the Restream Act was passed. Let me tell you, we are ramping up our national campaign, Stop the Killing and Enforce the Law, to pressure provincial and federal governments to enforce the Restream law. We have developed a clear action plan to ensure greater enforcement of this important law. We are demanding that our governments implement these specific, decisive measures, and we have the support of the Canadian Labour Congress, provincial labour federations, other unions, and municipalities, as well as other allies right across our country, in order to pressure our governments to act now. We can't allow corporations to simply pay a fine when a worker is killed, while families and survivors are left to suffer. That's wrong. Every worker who is killed at work deserves to have their death investigated through a criminal lens, just like every other death in society. The only way to ensure that corporations take their obligations more seriously is by enforcing the Restream law. So we're ramping up our campaign to stop the killing and enforce the law. We're keeping our foot on the gas pedal, and we'll be calling on our members across the country to join us as we lead this fight. And I know our members will be there, as steelworkers always are. You know, just last week, steelworkers in District 6 marked another historic achievement for our union as we commemorated the 50th anniversary of the Elliott Lake uranium miners' wildcat strike in Northern Ontario. The 1974 Elliott Lake miners' strike was not simply a historic event for our union, it was also a defining moment in Canadian labour history that would benefit all future generations of workers right across our country. Exposed to underground dust and radiation, many uranium miners in Elliott Lake were suffering from silicosis, suffering from lung cancer by the early 70s. They were also confronted with other workplace hazards such as rock falls, cave-ins, rock bursts, but employers would not take these hazards seriously. Eventually, the miners at the Denison mine and their union, Local 5762, decided they had to take They had to take unprecedented action in order to protect their health and their very lives. On April 16, 1974, over 1,000 steelworker miners walked off the job and set up a massive picket line. Little did these miners know at the time, but their illegal wildcat strike would become a watershed moment in Canadian history, and it would trigger new workplace health and safety legislation in Ontario that would further spread across the country and help prevent injury and death for countless workers in the future. Leaders at all levels of the Steelworkers Union stepped up to support these striking miners and to push for fundamental change. The labor movement and the New Democratic Party also rallied to the cause. The strike and the miners' cause captured widespread public attention from coast to coast. The company was forced to meet with the union to address its concerns and resolve the strike. The Ontario government was compelled to take extraordinary action, and they appointed a Royal Commission on Mining Safety, headed by James Ham. Steelworkers played a really key role in the Royal Commission, and we fought for many of the key recommendations that the Commission made in its groundbreaking report back in 1976. These recommendations would ultimately be adopted in new legislation which gave new crucial rights to workers, such as the right to refuse, the right to know, the right to participate in the workplace, the right to have joint health and safety committees, the right to worker advisors, the right to shut down work and unsafe equipment. You know, steelworkers, along with our labor allies and the NDP, lobbied fiercely, relentlessly for the creation of this new health and safety legislation. But we did more than just that. We demanded that this new law should cover all workers in Ontario, and not just miners. In 1979, we won. We celebrate the historic victory as the Occupational Health and Safety Act was introduced in Ontario. This was the first legislation of its kind in Canada, and it paved the way for other provincial and territorial governments to create similar laws. It was our union, the Steelworkers Union, who started it all, and we can never forget that it began with the incredible courage of the Elliott Lake miners who took a stand, and we are eternally grateful to all of them. Friends, in a few days, on April 28th, we will be observing the most solemn day of the year for the labor movement, the Day of Mourning. On the Day of Mourning, we honor those who have died on the job needlessly, and we renew our commitment to fight for the living. I know that all of you will be observing this day. I know that if you can, you will be attending a ceremony in your community. There's a link on your screens that will take you to a listing of Day of Mourning events and communities right across District 6. At this moment, I want to ask that we all pause to remember all workers who have died on the job, workers who have suffered from an occupational disease or whose lives have been forever changed by an unfortunate workplace injury. Thank you. When we pledge on the Day of Mourning to continue to fight for the living, what does that really mean? Well, I can tell you it means doing everything we can to ensure everyone's workplace is safe, that every worker goes home alive, in one piece, and after every shift. We fulfill our pledge by ensuring we don't take for granted all of the progress we've made on workplace health and safety, and we work constantly to build on that progress, to strengthen and to improve our health and safety laws, and we fight for those laws to be enforced. Sadly, we have to fight constantly against corporations and right-wing governments that work hand in hand together to try to weaken our health and safety laws and many other rights that workers fought for decades to win. But you know what? This is what steelworkers do. This is what we do every day because we are the Health and Safety Union and we're proud of it. I'd like to take a moment now to tell you about some of our recent organizing successes in helping workers who need a voice and want to join our union. So far this year, workers at 3 more Starbucks stores in Ontario have joined the Steelworkers Union, including the first unionized shop in Toronto. We've also welcomed workers from Nova Wood, Lamination, Columbia Forest Products in Kitchener, security guards at the Timmins and District Hospital, as well as bridge security guards in Halifax. It's always great to welcome new members and to be able to help them win the working conditions and respect they deserve in their job. I especially want to thank our organizing staff for their hard work on these campaigns. An organizer's work means a lot of early mornings and a lot of late nights, taking calls and meeting with workers who need a union. And I know it's a tough job, but it's also very rewarding. When we're able to help workers join our union, we are literally helping them to improve their lives and their families' lives. How cool is that? So for any of our members out there who are interested in this type of rewarding work and to help our union grow, we have an opportunity for you. We're currently accepting applications for our USW member organizing program. This program provides training to our grassroots activists who are interested in working in organizing campaigns when those needs arise. So if you're up to the challenge and interested in such a rewarding experience, I encourage you to visit our website in order to learn more about the program. The link is on your screens. We've also launched another exciting new program recently, and it's called Elevating Action. Let me tell you that this is an updated version of a training program we previously had that was called Be More Than a Bystander. We launched the new Elevating Action program last November during Grey Cup week in Hamilton. This is a joint venture between the Steelworkers, White Ribbon Canada, and the Canadian Football League Players Association, the CFLPA. This great program provides training to male and gender-diverse union members to help them become powerful advocates for ending gender-based violence. Since the Elevating Action program was launched, we have had 2 training sessions for steelworkers from District 6 and District 3 who were joined by CFLPA members. Members who are fully trained through the program are then able to deliver the same training in their unions as well as in their workplaces and to other organizations. So I want to thank our members who have stepped up and taken this training already, and I strongly encourage others to do the same. This is another example of our union's commitment to education and to ending gender-based violence. I also want to take a moment to mention how great it is to see so many of our younger members stepping up and getting involved in our training and in our education programs. The next generation of USW activists give me so much confidence and optimism for the future of our union. The incredible skills, the promise and diversity that our young activists bring to the union were on full display last month in Pittsburgh during the 2nd Steelworkers International Next Gen Conference. It was great to see over 1,000 Next Gen members at the conference, and 70% of them were first-time delegates. This was an amazing show of solidarity because it proves that our local unions are giving opportunities to young members, and that our union will be in good hands for a long time to come. And on that note, Kevon and I were invited to USW Local 1-2010's Local Union Conference, which happens every 3 years in Hearst, Ontario. Local 1-2010 is one of the 2 wood locals in District 6. During the conference, we were joined by a group of activists on a tour of 2 plants where Local 1-2010 members work. The first was Columbia Forest Products, where our members work hard every day to manufacture hardwood plywood and veneer products. During this tour, it was nice to learn that 50% of the workers at this plant identify as women, and over 50% of workers at this plant are young workers under the age of 35. At LaCour Lumber, we toured that as well. It's a sawmill, and we learned our members manufacture softwood chips, sawdust, and shavings on top of the lumber. The plant is on the Constant Lake First Nation land, and 80% of the USW membership plant are Indigenous members. Great to see. We appreciate these plant tours whenever we have an opportunity to do them. It lets us meet and hear from our members and to learn and see what they do day in and day out. I would like to thank the Steelworkers Wood Council and Local 1-2010, as well as their members who work there, for accommodating us during this visit. I'd like to take a moment to recognize the members in our district who are currently on strike and who just ended a strike. Those members are fighting for the decent wages and the conditions that they have earned. Right now, we have 340 members of Local 4820 in Haley Station, Ontario, by Renfrew, who are on strike against Magellan Aerospace. Magellan Aerospace assembles parts for aircraft, defense, and space agencies, not only in Canada, but around the world. These members have been on the picket line for just over a month, since March 21st, and they're fighting the good fight. They're fighting for improved wages and much needed improvements to their pension and their benefits. We got your backs, not only today, not only tomorrow, but for as long as it takes for you to get a fair contract that you deserve. In Goderich, Ontario, our members of Local 95-97 just ended their strike against Logic Security. These security guards provide security at the world's largest salt mine, and before they hit the picket line, they had been without a contract since January. That's not right. Their wages have not kept up with the rising costs of living. In the end, their new contract that ended the strike, they've made gains, important gains, in wages, costs related to obtaining a security license. They also added 2 important languages to their contract. They added leave language for traditional Indigenous practices and voting during elections for Indigenous chief and council. And they also added the marking a National Day of Remembrance and Action on Violence Against Women with a moment of silence. Finally, before I pass things on to Kevon, I'd like to talk about the importance of the mining sector to our members and to our union, both in Canada and the United States. First, we know that the United Steelworkers is truly the mining union. In Canada, we represent over 20,000 members who work in the mining sector. Our members have negotiated hundreds of collective agreements with mining employers over the years, and we have a proven track record of negotiating highly competitive wages, benefits, pensions, and strong health and safety protections. We have maintained this track record through all of the challenges and upheaval caused by changes in multinational corporate ownership in the mining sectors. Let me share a recent example. The collective agreement USW Local 9508 negotiated with Vale in Voisey Bay, Newfoundland and Labrador. The local, which has 650 members, this unit achieved total wage increases of 15.5% over 4 years, plus strong gains in vacations, benefits, and shift premiums. They won major non-monetary improvements throughout the entire collective agreement, which are valuable to our members. They ensured that the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation was added as a paid statutory holidays for members, an important step in the path of truth and reconciliation for Indigenous steelworkers and their families. In Voisey Bay, over half of the workers there are Indigenous, so this was important. Outside of Canada and the US, the steelworkers continue to build relationships with other unions who share common multinational employers. In January, I had the opportunity to join a delegation representing our international union and the Steelworkers Humanity Fund that helped to create an international network of unions at various international operations of Newmont Corporation. This new group, the International Miners Network, creates an alliance of Canadian steelworkers and unions, including the Mexican Union, the Los Mineros, the ASI-JEMIN labor group from Argentina, and the Peruvian Union, Citricami. This new international network expands the leadership roles played by the USW and the Steelworkers Humanity Fund to build global solidarity and to help mining union and workers in their countries to improve their working and standard of living conditions. Our union in Canada and abroad is committed to continuing to ensure that we maintain and to expand our key role in the future of the mining industry. Speaking of mining, Kevon, I know that you just went on a mining-related trip recently, so why don't you take a few minutes to tell us about that?
Thanks, Miles. Last month, I traveled to the other side of the globe to meet with union members in Indonesia. I had the privilege to join my fellow steelworkers, Ben Davis, from our USW International headquarters, as well as Megan Sarin, one of our USW legislative representative in Washington, D.C. We met with workers and union leaders at the Indonesia Morowali Industrial Park, referred to as IMIC, one of the largest industrial operations in Asia where iron ore is processed. To put this massive operation into context, there are 86,000 workers that work at IMIC. We have 3 shifts that comprises of 22,000 workers per shift. As a result of stringent laws in Indonesia, all products that are mined in the country must be processed in the country prior to being exported. So, the iron ore that is mined elsewhere in the country is brought into this giant industrial park for smelting and processing. It was an eye-opening experience for our USW delegations as we met with Indonesian workers and their union representatives to discuss issues such as health and safety and other working conditions. In Sowaku, we met with union members and contract workers employed by Vale, the same multinational that employs steelworkers in Sudbury, Voisey Bay, and Thompson, Manitoba. Vale Indonesia employs approximately 3,000 full-time employees and hires another 9,000 contract workers. Working conditions, wages, seniority, and women's health and safety concerns were some of the common issues that we discussed with our Indonesian colleagues. We exchanged a lot of ideas about how our union and labor federations can continue to work together to improve the working and living standards of mine workers around the world. And Miles, as USW representatives, we also pledged that our union will continue to take a leading role in building global solidarity and working to help lift up workers in Indonesia and other countries in the global south. Over to you, Miles.
Wow, thanks for that report, Kevon. You know, that's what steelworkers do, and you're right. Our union is the mining union, and we embrace the responsibilities that come with it, not only here in Canada, but also in building solidarity with our allies right across the world. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to News at 6 Live tonight. I hope to see many of you at our District 6 Spring School, at the District 6 Conference in July, and at our other events in the coming months. Solidarity, everyone, and good night.
A lot of events.
Well, we got a lot of stuff
What's going on?
on top of the bar.